The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Glory to you, O Lord. As Jesus got into a boat, his disciples followed him. Suddenly, a violent storm came up on the sea, so that the boat was being swamped by waves, but he was asleep. They came and woke him, saying, "Lord, save us, we are perishing." He said to them, "Why are you terrified, O you of little faith?" Then he got up, rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was great calm. The men were amazed and said, "What sort of man is this, whom even the winds and the sea obey?" The Gospel of the Lord. Yeah, this is a strange little account, right? This is a strange little account of what happened that day on the sea, right? And I don't know that we have like a real sense of, how violent this particular storm was. I mean, St. Matthew himself doesn't really get into the details of it, except that the disciples come to Jesus crying out that they're perishing. I mean, there were some fishermen among them, so it's not like they're simply inexperienced on the waves, but they certainly had that that experience. We are perishing. Is it an inflated concern of theirs? Again, we don't really know. And then we have, pushing back on this, Jesus pointing out the fact that they are terrified. Why are you terrified, O you of little faith? Right? They don't have faith. They don't have faith to endure, the undulations of the wave, their fear that their boat might not make the journey and they would drown at the sea. They have fear over faith here, and Jesus rebukes the winds and the rest. There's a lot going on here, and I don't know. I think that we want to perhaps take Jesus's words as the way that guides our own encounter with this particular scene. Why are you terrified, O you of little faith? Something about entrusting ourselves to Jesus, knowing that he is advancing God's purposes in the world, and we have signed up for that, means that he's the one who's in control, and we can endure all manner of hardship as long as I say Jesus is in the boat with us. Even if it appears as though he's asleep from time to time. Do you know he's here? He's called us. I mean, he's the one who gets into the boat. They join him. We join him. Right? It's his initiative. So we're not, in this sense, right? It's not the importance of the call and the primacy of the call in Christian life is very significant. You would say, if we were the ones to have chosen Christianity, then we're the ones who also get to puzzle about whether or not it's achieving its purposes for me. But this is not what has happened in our lives. Jesus has chosen us. He's called us to follow him. So now who gets to evaluate whether or not things are going the way they should be? He does. It's not us. It's not us. Except that we should look from time to time with a reasonable amount of self-scrutiny to see whether or not we're still in a boat with him, or if we've kind of foolishly jumped out and decided to brave the waves and the wind ourselves. We prefer to be out there swimming and drowning than to be on that boat with Jesus, perhaps asleep. I don't think he's asleep, but anyway, he is the one who's called us to be with him, and then it's a sense of do we believe or not believe that one, he is at the head of this movement. So like we saw yesterday, Jesus is calling people to follow him, and his being at the head of God's renewal movement, God's new people. Is he at the head? And then even though we have said that he is at the head and he's leading the way as God's anointed king, Do we have faith in every aspect of our lives, right? Are we trusting and following Jesus every step of the way, or are we not? And this is like the measure of our faith. Are we doing it? Are we entrusting ourselves to Jesus? And here, I should say this. And do we have confidence also in his power? This is a challenge, because this is where the disciples are. Because already we've seen the faith of this centurion who's come to Jesus and said, "Lord, I'm not worthy to have you enter under my roof." Right? And from that moment, his slave was cured. Right? That's faith. And Jesus turns around and says, "I've not found this kind of faith in anyone in Israel." And what are we supposed to hear? Israel is supposed to be God's people. It's supposed to be God's renewed people. They're the ones who are supposed to be primed for faith. I haven't found this faith anywhere. Do we have that faith? Do we have that faith that the power to, cast out demons, the power to heal, power even over the elements? Do we believe that Jesus has that power? He has the power to do all he wills. But are we trusting him, right? So it's any number of parts there, right? Do we trust one in the nature of our call? He has called you. He has called you. Did he make a mistake there? Yeah, better make sure he didn't, right? He did. He knew what he was doing when he called you. He called you. Yeah, and now we, being called, are responding with our yes. Our yes is that, Jesus, yes, you are God's anointed king. You're at the head of the movement that is my life. It's the movement that is God's renewing movement, yes, but I'm giving myself over to that. Then you are leading and guiding me. You're showing me where I should go. You're telling me, you're giving my life meaning and purpose. Right? You're the one who gives my life meaning and purpose. So, are we saying that? And then are we entrusting him, entrusting ourselves to him in such manner that we say, yes, Jesus, it's all about you, and I'm giving myself over to you. You have the power to do all you will. What does that mean? It means that I trust you. It doesn't mean that I expect my outcomes to be assured. It means that I expect his outcomes to be assured. And I'm willing to give myself over to him then, today, in this particular moment, in order to advance his purposes in the world. Not my own. And again, like I said, who is the one to judge the success of this particular movement? It's not us. It's him. Which is why we can wear red and celebrate any number of martyrs, but today Saint Irenaeus, because we simply cannot understand how martyrdom it is that it will affect or advance God's purposes. But we celebrate a man who gave himself over to them without concern for what it cost him. And we celebrate that because that's our call. We have to give ourselves over to God and his purposes no matter what it costs us. And I said the other day, we might hope that it costs us everything. At least then we know that all the junk of our own self-concern and selfishness will have been burned up. And we would have given ourselves totally to God if we suffer martyrdom, if we give everything in the cause. But we're called to give everything in the cause today, even if it doesn't cost us our life. And the way that it works is straightforwardly. Simply makes it sound easy. Straightforwardly, because it's a clear shot. It is our entrusting ourselves to Jesus. Knowing that he will achieve his purposes and desiring that he achieve his purposes in me and advance his purposes through me. So it's ours here again to give ourselves over to him, to entrust ourselves totally to him, and then go and be people of faith, people with real confidence in Jesus that he will advance his purposes and that he's called me to a life of great meaning, and he nourishes and sustains me today as I try to live my entire life with him leading and guiding, with him nourishing and sustaining me.